Wah! Welcome back, Mere Mortalites, to another edition of the Mere Mortals podcast. We have Meanderings today, philosophizing out in the park today.
Deep conversations, light-hearted
with a
touch.
light-hearted touch, that's for sure. I'm Juan over here.
Kyron on this side of the mic.
And what are we going to be chatting about today? Well, I'm going to kick us off straight away with I've been teasing you with this for the last couple of days. I really want to tell you when I remembered me doing this, when I went, okay, I'll save it for the podcast. And it's around driving and road rage. So I'll lay down what sort of happened. I was driving around on Thursday or Wednesday, and someone cut me off. Again, right? Someone cut me off. So they almost like they sped up on the right-hand lane. I was just like doing my own thing. They sped up, went around me, cut me off. I'd like put the brakes on. Anyways. But the way that I sometimes handle my road rage, because I was frustrated. Like in my mind, I'm like, God damn it, what are they doing? You know, do they know how to drive? I have this tendency that I will pretend like I'm an undercover cop car or undercover policeman.
Okay.
So what I will do is I will continue to drive behind them. And I don't know why I do this, but I'm just imagining that undercover police cars have this sort of setup where I'm imagining like this imaginary, almost like console setup where, you know, they like dial in and they've got like the radio playing, whatever. So what I will try to do, and I'll try to explain as I do it here, obviously on the video, but I try to I'll reach down, like you can see me, I reach down and like pretend that I'm like talking into like a little thing, and I'll keep like looking forward at them and just like drive behind them for like ages. And I don't know, obviously I feel like I do it, and I reckon and no one's ever seen me do it.
I can't imagine.
But for me, I'm like, oh, I got them. This is like my revenge on them in terms of my road rage. And I feel like whenever I do that, I go, oh, yeah, I felt good about that.
Yeah.
So that's like my letting off steam.
So the pettiness is what.
Yeah, the light pettiness is what gets me through my road rage there.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. How illegal is it to put on some like flashing lights? You know, maybe not the full red and blue, but maybe you want a couple of like neon colors. And just
what
so
about purple lights?
Yeah, red and blue happen to jump up, you know, on your dashboard. That would give them a little bit of like a
yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
A little hard.
I feel like it would be illegal of some kind. That someone would try to get you for that. Imagine if you did it and it was like an undercover cop car in front of you. You'd be like, oh,
yeah, they're
man.
the ones who cut you off. Yeah. Have you thought about ever getting a dash cam or anything like that?
No, not really. I know one of our friends, Steven, has one. He does have like the dash cam, but that's because someone like ran into him or something like that. So he had it for that particular period. Nah, I've never thought about it. Even to the point of, I just go, will I ever like even really use it? Maybe if I get into a crash, but I just can't I can't see myself being like, oh yeah, that was a good investment of ever using it.
Yeah.
I reckon just the extra adage of just having something on my screen or my window on my car, I'd be like, that's annoying. I don't want to have that there.
Gotcha. This ties in something with Brendan told me the other day, which was a movie called Falling Down.
Falling Down.
1993. Have you heard of this?
No.
I'm trying to look up a summary of it, but here's the basic one that comes out, the first thing I type in. William Defends Foster is an unemployed and divorced engineer whose increasing frustration levels lead him to act out violently and commit several crimes. You know, that sounds like nothing so good, but the way Brendan explained it to me was basically this dude gets stuck in traffic and he experiences a bit of road rage.
Okay.
And it's not super clear with the description Brendan gave me what triggered the events, like why in particular this day or whatnot. Maybe there was something small that happened and whatnot, but basically the dude gets out of his car and then it's a series escalating of crimes where he keeps like upgrading weapons. So some dude will like try and knife him or something and he'll get the knife of them and stab them. Then he'll use the knife to acquire a gun. And by the end of the movie, Brendan says, like, the movie ends, he's somehow gotten a rocket launcher, shoots it down into the traffic, which was, you know, like, on the roads, and he just blows up all this traffic, and that was, like, the end of the movie.
That is an interesting concept to a movie.
Yeah, this is definitely just the...
Is this like a B movie or like a C movie? You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, created
probably
out of a budget of, like, $1 million?
Let me go. So it grossed $96 million in the box office.
Let me see here. Sniff at?
It says it's an American thriller film Yeah, the way Brendan, and this is the thing I have with summaries and storylines and stuff, I actually quite enjoy reading a novel idea, like the way Brendan explained it to me. That sounded hilarious. That sounded really funny.
Like, oh, this
sounded
is
cool.
great.
Sounded like, we can also somewhat relate to wanting to blow up cars with a rocket launcher if you're stuck in traffic. But even just from the description here, I'm sort of reading like, it's probably meant to be somewhat serious in a way.
Yeah.
Just swallowed water down the wrong hole there, one.
Oh,
good.
Man.
It's got Michael Douglas in it, Robert Duvall. So there's a couple of names that I somewhat recognise there.
Okay.
The
concept sounds good. Like, I like the concept.
Yeah, the concept sounds really good, but it's watching the actual movie, watching the full 113 minutes of it. Am I going to do it? No.
But
And
the concept's good.
Yeah, and I've had this before with the Saw movies. I really liked reading the plot lines of them and whatnot. I was like, that's like, I like traps and devices and the sort of like thrill without having to actually watch it. I was telling you the other day, I disliked the Attack on Titan manga.
Yep.
Because it got into politics. And I was like, it's so fucking
Don't
boring.
do this.
There's no more Titans anymore. Like, there's no more people getting eaten and cool shit happening. It was just a series of, the Malayans did this, and then this, and the Eldians did this, and I was just so bored.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to do that.
But then I saw a fight scene, like a small one on YouTube.
A recent one.
Got recommended to me. And I went onto the fandom page, which explains the whole manga in... maybe takes you like 10-15 minutes to read it through.
And then you're like, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got into it again. Yes. Oh, shit, this thing happened, this dude. So there's definitely, for me, a large disconnect sometimes between the idea, the concept, and I think a lot of times the concept needs to just stay as a concept. Like, that's a real cool concept. Don't ever create it. Like, don't make it. It'll probably turn out awful. But the idea, that's really nice.
See, I like the Saw movies, but
I only ever watched one of them. I think it was Saw 3D with you guys, actually.
I mean, that was probably one of the shitter ones out of all of the Saw.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know.
I would go say, for the Saw franchise itself, like, it started really good in terms of like a thriller, and there was a lot of mystery in the original Saws.
The first one was really simple, right? It was just the two locked in a room. There was no elaborate
exactly. There was nothing
Yeah.
else. So I think the mental aspect of all the original Saws were really good.
Yeah.
By the time it got to like the last ones, it was just
just really
gore
gratuitous,
killing,
right? Yeah.
just try to show as much as possible. So I think it moved away from what made the original ones really good. So I'll probably say that about the Saw movies. But
Gotcha.
in any case, no one's going to ever see me pulling my police stunt in terms of pretending to be an undercover cop. But I will continue to do so.
Another idea that sounds good in theory. One, you can really fuck with these people who are cutting you off in traffic.
Yeah.
Putting into practice.
But will they ever see it? No. There you go. I wanted to bring up another topic. It's something that's you've been hearing me talk about a little bit, which is climate change. And why have I been talking so much about climate change? Well, I started listening to...
Well, you haven't talked about it much on the podcast.
Not on the podcast, but to you directly I have. So I'll back it up and tell you about Joe Rogan's approach at the moment with podcasting. So I don't know if he's going to be doing this all the time, but one of the, I guess, hates that he was getting, or hate comments he was getting was, Joe, you aren't bringing enough of the opposite view into this conversation. Like, you have one particular person who's got an extreme view. How dare you? Now, I think he does bring on different people. I think also it's his fucking podcast. Like, let him do whatever he wants. You don't have to listen if you don't want to. Same with us. But so what he's done just recently is he wanted to have a conversation with someone about climate change. I think I talked to you about the fact that he was talking with Jordan Peterson about it. So he's brought on two people. I think Steve Coonan and Andrew Dessler. I think I can check those names. But essentially, one of them is he wrote the book Unsettled, I believe it is, which is more along the lines of, yes, there is issues with the climate, but is it all it's stacked up to be? Like, do the numbers really stack up? Is it being overblown, etc.? And we've talked about that in the past. We did a whole episode on climate change, and
yes, we did.
You've done a book review on, what was that book called?
False Alarm.
False Alarm.
By Bjorn Lomborg.
We've talked about that aspect. But he actually got then straight after in the next podcast someone who essentially opposed that view. and to essentially go and talk through the whole point of it. Now, a couple of things that I took away from me just before I dive into the actual person itself, but I was like, I like that concept a lot of bringing on two people with opposing views, because at least in a short space, you get to see really quickly, like...
They weren't together in the same episode, though.
No,
so
it was like...
Sort of like back to
It was
back,
like Joe talking to somebody first,
quick.
and then the other one.
Yeah.
But I think what was good was, well, there was some obviously comparisons of like, oh, he was talking in this particular track, and this is how he would have like challenged that, and oh no, but I came away with listening to both, going, oh, I can see points from one perspective, but now I can see like points from the other perspective. Do you think, and there's probably just a question for you, so I thought, oh, maybe this might be an interesting thing to do with books, like a topic, right? Do you think that would... Is that a fool's errand? Like, do you think... Like, I'm thinking in my mind, is that something like I could pull off? And I go, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find, like, say, a topic that I really like. Let's just pick a random one. Let's say starting with why, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to find an opposing book to something like that idea?
Yeah,
right?
well, you'd have to be very specific and have to pick out someone who's already... where there is an opposite view, like what's the opposite view to starting with why? Starting with anti-why, I guess.
Why?
Yeah, not starting with why. Yeah, starting with anything else but why. Maybe.
Why? Yeah, it was playing in my mind. I went, like, I like the concept, but I went, nah, I feel like it'd be really hard to apply, like, practically with books and the like. Do you do any attempts at like trying to see both of those views to try and get a better viewpoint on a particular topic or idea?
I used to somewhat when I was working, and this was particularly around the first election with Donald Trump, so that would have been in 2016, and by then, I mean, like, I'd probably mentally checked out of my work anyway, because I quit at the end of 2016, December.
Yep.
The election was November of the month before.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, so I definitely...
You were checked out.
I was on the process. You know, I'd probably already handed in my... I actually gave him like 8 weeks notice just to be nice.
Jesus, it's a long time, man.
Yeah, well, it's like minimum 4 out there anyway. And so yeah, basically I had a bunch of free time. There was an American in the office. Multiple Americans in the office. So it was sort of, and it was like Donald Trump. It was sort of, politics was being made fun somewhat. It's like grab by the pussy.
It was entertaining.
And all that sort of, yeah.
Yep.
So I somewhat got into that, and there was a period where I would go on like Breitbart, and then I'd go on MSNBC, and then I would go on like an Australian news site, and I think I even went on to like Al Jazeera. And this shows just how bored I was, because I haven't...
Current checking on news.
Yeah,
like, God,
yeah. I haven't visited any of them for a fair while. And I would sort of try and do it, but I think I wasn't very good at it because I'd just get bored. Like, it was topics I didn't really care about.
Yeah.
As far as books or podcasts, not particularly. I will sometimes listen to ones where they have both people on at the same time. So Joe Rogan, that's not
like
something...
competing views.
Yeah, that's not something totally new for him, because I remember he did it with the Game Changers. There was the Game Changers documentary. I think he had the guy who created that on. He had a guy to refute it on, and then I believe he had both of them at the same time on at some point to do that. So they had a somewhat debate.
It's not new to him, but I think he specifically called out in those 2 podcasts. He was like, I'm doing this because you people say that I don't get people on that, like, you know, have opposing views.
Gotcha, yeah. So, but how much do I do it in my normal day-to-day life? Not too much.
I think I lean towards, like, I think it's a lot of work, but I think I lean towards that. I think at least, I don't do enough of it. Like, I don't do enough of it type of deal.
Okay. In any particular areas or in all areas?
No, I just say in all areas. Like the climate change conversation. I just think that, like, after we had a conversation about it, your book review, other places that I'd sort of listened and heard to it, I started like swaying towards more of there's a little bit of overblown information being thrown around here. There's probably not enough detail here. Where in the latest conversation with this Andrew guy, you know, he did present some very interesting things about, like, how he was explaining it, and I totally don't agree with a lot of things he was saying, but he was kind of explaining it that a lot of those, I guess, scientists, if you like, those individuals, when you're talking about that topic, it's not so much that they're lying, it's that they present the data in a very specific, special way, and are missing maybe some other parts of the story, which, if told, it's like, oh, actually, that, yeah, okay, that's a little bit different. Kind of like a defense attorney. Oh, I was about to, like, sneeze again. Oh, good. Yeah, like a defense attorney where, you know, they'll actually be like, oh, you know, he's an upstanding citizen, he really cares for his family, loves his kids, but killed his grandmother.
Yeah.
But it's like, but all those things, you know, if you just tell that part of the story, it's like, oh, that's really good. Apart from that bit.
Yeah.
In any case, it just made me reconsider and go, yeah, okay. I think often if I've got a really strong opinion, which is really good, like have strong opinions, but in my whole adage of make sure they're held loosely, I'll hold them more strongly if I'm not open or like listening to the other side of the story as much. So maybe something like that.
Let's jump into that a little bit. So I think I somewhat agreed with that. Strong opinions held loosely when you were first saying it. I'm not even sure really if that's something like I'd do though, because what do you do if you have strong opinions? I guess like what does that really mean? A strong opinion? Does that like how is that different from just an opinion? I guess.
Well, I would say that you are. It's a good point. I would say that the difference here would be that you would be very, not adamant, but you would be very sure as to where your opinion comes from. So, not just an opinion of like, hey, I think that hat is cool, because that's my opinion. Okay, maybe a strong opinion might be that hat is cool. Maybe because I've done a survey of 100 other people and they also think it's pretty cool, or the market says it, or I've checked into some research or whatever. So maybe a strong opinion is like, you've backed it up with facts, you've backed it up with experience, or something else like that. I guess that's what I would differentiate between an opinion of just throwing it out there and a strong opinion of like, okay, no, I've understood why exactly I've said that particular thing. But maybe, and then obviously the part about holding it loosely, I guess is probably all said another way, just like being open to being wrong, and in like that conversation being like, okay, I'll accept to be wrong, but it's a very strong opinion because I've researched X, Y, Z about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, see, I guess, maybe that's the point I'd make, which is I'm not really sure I've researched enough things to even say I have a strong opinion.
I'll give you the exact example I reckon for you would be, I think that you could give a strong opinion about Cardano to someone,
maybe,
but only an opinion on Ava, or, Ava, what was I saying? Aave, or, you know, any pick, whatever. Man, we both could only give opinions about Immutable X.
Yeah,
but
that's
you could give a strong
true.
opinion on Cardano. I could probably give you a strong opinion about NFTs, because like, okay, we've got enough like data, information, conversations that we've had that we're like, okay, there's like some facts in there, but Immutable X, like, okay, sure, we've talked about it and looked into it, but as much as just like what we have is like opinions, like I'd be very easily persuaded if someone come and tell me like, oh no, it's really crap because of this reason. I'd be like, okay, well, that beats whatever the hell I've got, because I've got barely nothing. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, I've I feel like, I don't know, when I say the term fence sitter, do you have any like immediate reactions to that? Do you hear someone's a fence sitter?
I mean, it sounds like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because my immediate reaction like it's a bad thing.
Yeah. See, that's sort of like the impression I've somewhat got just throughout life, is that he's a fence sitter politician. Like, he doesn't commit to anything. It's like whatnot. But I sort of find myself sitting on the fence a lot now, and like being totally comfortable with like, I think the Bitcoin people have a really, really strong point that Bitcoin is the best money ever. But I also think it'd be really funny if another cryptocurrency like overtook it.
Well, I think it's like you can have a strong opinion and be a fence sitter. I think that's totally possible.
Yeah, okay.
Like in this point, it's like, I could see a view for maximalists for Bitcoin, and I could see and I've heard enough of like why maybe Ethereum or any of the other currencies or cryptos could take it over or just do as well. But like whether I fall in like one camp or the other, I'm like, man, I'll sit in the middle. Like, I don't actually care. Overall, I just think it's beneficial, so I've got a strong opinion around that. But it's like, I would find it really funny if like I would find it hilarious if like Dogecoin became like the
how good
number
would
one
that be?
crypto. It would be the funniest
I hadn't
thing.
even thought about that, man. Fuck yes, that would be so beautiful. Even if it was just for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, just because it would be fantastic, and people would just hate on it for, like so badly. I'm gonna talk about this particular bit though because his name was Andrew Dessler, and I wanted to make sure I like wrote these comments. I like re-listened to it a couple of times to make sure I noted it down that it was correct. So if someone actually listens to that Andrew Dessler and thinks I'm not taking it, like I'm taking it out of context or whatever,
Juan tried his best.
I tried my best on here. So there was two things that this guy said. So I already talked a little bit about you, but about this earlier. But one thing that I was frustrated about in this conversation was the person who was basically presenting his view as to why it was an unsettled debate, why the inconvenient truth of global warming and the like, maybe it's overblown, etc., etc., etc. Now he was presenting like, okay, this is why that particular model is wrong. He was then Steve Koonin, who was also like with the book Unsettled. He talked about how hurricanes were starting to, I think it was like ramp up basically. But then he was saying, well, that graph, like it was specifically shown to be like when it was ramping up. But if you actually look at it even further back, it actually was like coming down and then started coming up. And then there was like a bigger cycle that it holds in, right? So there was all these
it's like cherry picking. Oh, stock market's down today. But
yeah, so he was basically
look over a 10-year period and it's like, oh.
Exactly. So he was just more kind of trying to present what facts he believes as to why it's overvalued. Whatever. Now, this guy, Andrew Dessler, said a lot of good things that I agreed with and helped me change my mind on a few things. But what I hated about him, and I hate this about listening to any interview or talking with people, is that he would get asked a question like, oh, what do you think about that particular position that Kessler was in or whatever it may be?
That piece of data. Or
and they'll be like, oh, well, actually, let me have to tell you about this before we can get into that, or let's talk about X. So here's one of the examples. Joe was talking about something about how like politicians and why it might be bad, and he just threw out like a random comment being like, oh, well, yeah, all of them are in the pockets of ExxonMobil and the oil people, and they all get paid. And like comments like that, especially when you're like trying to rebut other information, especially when you're trying to come with strong opinions, I'm like, man, just throwing like random shit like this, like just being like, oh yeah, all of them are. It's like, no, they're probably not all of them are. Maybe there are some. Can't say all of them, but here's a couple of absolute crackers. Some nice crackers, right? So one of the comments, Joe actually asked them specifically because there was a specific conversation about cars, automobiles, and the batteries, because about there was some issues around management, end of life, the cost of the batteries themselves, not enough material to actually produce cars for every single person on Earth, all these sort of conversations. And so his question was, well, what about that? What about those batteries? And Andrew's first reply, like direct reply, he was like, yeah, but first, have you driven an electric car? Because they're way better than petrol cars.
Yeah, okay.
Like, he was just directly like something so completely opposite, which they kind of started talking into, being like, oh yeah, Joe's got a Tesla, yeah, they are easy to drive. Dude, they never answered this question properly.
Yeah,
I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, that is where I'm like, no, that is a stupid way to ever answer anything. Like, if you're getting asked something, and you're answering like, oh, but what? Have you driven it though?
Yeah, you ever been in a G7? It's a way better way to fly than
you know what I mean? Like,
commercial.
Like, okay, fine, but I'm talking about like the carbon emissions. Like, why the fuck's that got anything to do with what you just told me? So like that, I got like super annoyed. But here's the other one where I thought I re-listened to this 3 times to make sure I'd heard it right, and I laughed out loud listening to this on the car. So I know specifically where I was on the road when I heard this. So there was a comment in the Coonan episode, so the previous one, where Joe asked how much of global warming is being caused by humans. Now, his answer was unsure, not sure. We're not really sure how many. It's obviously a percentage, it's a fraction. Not really sure, right? Maybe a lot of the models can say it, but undecided. Cool. Asked Andrew the question. Andrew actually, the guy, Andrew actually brought it up in the conversation. He said, specifically pointed out like, oh, Steve didn't want to talk about that. He was like, didn't want to give you an answer, and I think that's pretty terrible. So Joe asked him, well, okay, well, how much is it that humans are contributing to global warming? What do you reckon his answer was?
Maybe even more than 100. It's like 105% or something.
That would have been funny too. But no, he said, we can confidently say that it's 100%. He said, we can confidently say it's 100%. And I went, bruh, what do you mean you can confidently say it is 100%? And then he proceeded to say like 7 other things that could cause global warming that are causing. I was like, what am I hearing? Like, I was like, what is going on? And again, I'm not a scientist, and I don't know bad shit about all of this stuff or the data, or I haven't looked into it properly. But when I hear stuff like that, where it just seems so illogical, I go, man, like, no wonder maybe like people, when they hear this debate, and like maybe people get annoyed to have a debate with you. It's like, if you're trying to debate like this, like, oh, man, don't debate like that. Like, debate like directly on some of the facts, as opposed to just random comments about like, oh, have you driven an electric car, or being like, yeah, I know, confidently 100%, it's all humans, it's all causing it. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
seems like strong things. Where like, you know, if you've like read Inconvenient Truth or Unsettled, and a few others, you go like, oh, that's probably not close to the truth. But anyways, it got me riled up. But it was interesting. It was 2 interesting podcasts to listen to.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you think the climate and environment, we'll lump those two together, the controversies, what will be the controversies that the biggest media platform in 5-10 years time will be talking about? Because I reckon there'll be there's 2 things that I've been thinking about recently. One will be, it'll get super nuanced in some way, and you'll have some people claiming that these people shouldn't be doing this with like the atoms. Like, these atoms are so precious that we shouldn't be sending them off into space, for example. We need them here on Earth. We can't, recycle, can't be sending shit to Mars because those atoms we need those atoms here. Like, it's almost like you're pissing them away into the universe.
Yeah.
And then also a similar thing with like, we shouldn't be creating these types of materials because those atoms are like wasted. Those are precious atoms. So maybe like gold atoms or things like that. So okay. I reckon at some point the debate will get into, no, you shouldn't be doing that because those atoms are precious.
Interesting. Okay, I never would have thought about that.
The other would be more same thing, like a refining down into energy usage. So it's like, oh, so terrible, Bitcoin, it uses the energy of a small country or something. That was going
to be my one in terms of like in 5-10 years it's going to be a thing where it's like, look how much energy Bitcoin uses.
That will ramp up for sure. That will ramp up more. The other thing though, I think, will be there'll be more scrutiny on where energy is used. So there will be some people claiming, oh, you shouldn't be going to a theme park because that's just total like energy wasted.
Like energy shaming.
Energy shaming. Like you're using that energy in a like unethical way.
Don't you know, like 17 Ethiopians don't have the energy to do that, and you're going to that?
100%.
Piece of filth.
I reckon it will get to. At some point, you will hear.
I reckon if you go to California, there's probably already people talking like that. Yeah. I reckon there'd be some people out there already like going down that path.
There's people who just try and take all the joy out of life, and everything needs like. I think there's a strain. This is somewhat in religion, particularly the Judeo-Christian ones, I think, which is there's like a lot of self-denial in it. It's like if you're a Christian, you need to, you can't have impure thoughts. You need to repent of your sins. Like there's a lot of that self-denial. Like stop being hedonistic in a way. Don't follow your pleasures because your pleasures will lead you to ruin. You need to be a lot more strict with yourself.
Man, Jordan Peterson over here. Yeah, okay.
That's it, yeah. Been channeling him. Yes. But yeah. So what were your thoughts on any environmental ones? You think that might pop up?
I think definitely that the Bitcoin one will be a big thing.
I'm wondering like individual energy use. I could see. Yeah, people getting shamed for individual energy use.
You know what I think
shouldn't be doing this. Yet it's like, oh, but I'm allowed to fly because.
Well, I was just about to say, I think that flying is going to be one where it'll make a lot of news. Where maybe in like 5-10 years it'll be like, oh, you fly 3 times a year. You know how much energy you're putting, you're wasting, and how much CO2 that's producing, and XYZ. Maybe they'll build better planes, but still, it's kind of like. Oh, sickening. Like, don't you care about our planet?
Yeah. I've sort of seen this before. I remember hearing about there was this dude created a blog, and he was like, I'm going to try and be as eco-friendly as possible and save money at the time. I want to prove that by being eco-friendly, you can save money. And so this guy and his family did a bunch of things, like they converted
the forest.
No, it was more like designs around the house and stuff. So they would use dimmer switches. They would use like get a rainwater tank to capture water, so they're using less water.
Yep.
All of these sorts of things, and they managed to save up, I don't know, $6,000 or something. And then as a sort of like treat, as a
like a way to
a reward for all their hard work, they took a family vacation to South America or something.
Sure.
So they flew from, I'm guessing, America. And I just remember this person like using them as an example and being like, oh, okay, that's really cool, all that stuff you've done, but you've just wasted, by deciding to take that trip, you've more than undone all of the good stuff that you had done beforehand. Sort of like shaming them a bit. And I was like, that's a tough one. Yes, if the eco-friendly family were now saying like, hey, look how eco-friendly we are, and then added an additional huge pollution via their plane flights, yes, I guess you could be like, yeah, that's hypocritical. You shouldn't be doing that.
I could see,
but yeah, what is better energy usage? Like, I would say that there's a net positive to the world by that family taking that trip.
Yeah.
They create memories. There's probably like more economic.
Was it an economical incentive for those countries for you to go?
Yeah, like they're spending their money overseas instead of in the US, so maybe they're spreading the wealth a bit more across the world. Versus needless waste. Needless waste of electricity, of water, and that sort of thing. Yeah, okay, I could see that. Yeah. Another one, maybe, I think the assault on plastic will continue. So I can imagine a point where a lot of the things that we get, which have meat wrapped in plastic, or M&Ms in plastic or something, like maybe not meat.
I could see that.
Why couldn't M&Ms be in a thin cardboard package, for example, or only you can get them now in boxes which have, I'm guessing, less plastic than the standard.
True. Yeah, I could see that trend. I mean, that's more of a trend. I mean, I don't know if that will be media, like headlining.
Maybe
media,
I don't know,
perhaps.
man. When they were phasing out plastic bags here in Australia, that took a year's worth of media.
True,
coverage.
that was a good point. I just think that will it be in 10 years like the big thing? I don't think it'd be the big thing. I think it'd be I'm leaning now more towards this shaming event. Imagine if they paired up. Imagine if they paired up the DigiGov pass that's being built or whatever, and everything like that, into it. Oh, have you not heard of it?
No.
Man, we can. There'll be not enough time to talk about
this.
Let's keep
going. Man,
I don't have enough of information, so I'm gonna have
to.
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up if you want, but we can talk about. Actually, let's do musings on it.
Okay.
Let's do music, because I think it'll be an interesting conversation about identity and the like. So
okay,
we'll
sounds
leave
good.
it there.
Sounds good. Those were my main thoughts on the environment stuff. I don't know why those were popping up for me recently, but I was particularly the atom one. It sort of came out of nowhere. I was just like, why? People are going to start talking about atoms. I just got a feeling of it. It's like, that's going to become important.
Bullish on atoms.
Bullish on and atom hodling. I'm going to start hodling some atoms.
So bring them in.
Yeah, I think the other reason was the amount of waste that you do still see. A couple of days ago was the once every 6 months maybe collection of random filler waste. I'm not sure what it was called. I saw it on the Brisbane City Council website. Let me bring this up quickly so I'm not talking too much out of my ass. But basically, you leave stuff on the sidewalk which is not going to fit in your normal bins, and the council will
very helpfully will go around and pick it up.
Yeah, it's called large. It was just here. Large items. It's like a large items calendar, collection. And it was on the Monday or Tuesday the 14th.
Okay.
Monday the 14th.
Okay.
So, a week ago. And I don't know about you, but there was a lot of stuff.
A lot
of stuff on the street, and it wasn't broken stuff. There was mattress.
Usable stuff, yeah.
There was plenty, if we had been moving in to our place at that time, the week before that we moved in, I was going around and I was picking up beds and couches and tables because we had no furniture.
Yep.
And I was just doing this all through Gumtree. I could have got all of that same stuff just by roaming, not even far, man. Probably 3 blocks is all I'd need to get everything that we have in our place now. Granted, yes, it's going to be worn and used, but just the amount of stuff that was out on the street made me a bit sad. That was why I was
a bit sad, okay.
I was like, yeah, this is why there might be a need for like getting down to the atom level. Like, you're wasting it on mattresses that are getting thrown into the dump and that sort of thing. I think that was sort of what was sparking it.
I'm gonna bet against you that the conversation's gonna be all the way down to atoms, but I could imagine like objects being given like a unit amount.
Well, maybe
of
like even
waste.
maybe even shaming for going to the dump or something like that. Like if you go to the dump more than once a year, that's like
no. Or like what I could see, and again, this goes back into like being tracked and did you go past and stuff like that. But imagine if they start doing something where like they'll weigh your recycling bin each time that they pick it up.
Yeah.
And we'll compare you if you don't have many things in there type of deal.
Could be, yeah.
You never recycle, like your bin's never like either recycled or it's always really light.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on
Yeah,
there?
that could be. How about also green waste? I find that so hilarious. So green waste, for those who don't know, is literally leaves and branches and shit that just accumulates over time. I always find that one pretty funny because it's like we plant the trees here intentionally. Like we could get rid of them if we wanted to. But no, we don't. And yet there's just so much leaves and all sorts of shit that we pile up. And, I get the arguments that you want a green city. It makes the air quality better and stuff like that. But, yeah, that sort of waste as well I find pretty funny. Just being like, you go to the dump and it's just, look at all these trees and just random shit that's just thrown out and around everywhere.
There's a lot of misuse of atoms out there.
That's it.
Anything else left for you, good sir?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up my first dance lesson.
Oh, okay. Talk about it.
My first paid dance lesson. So, for those who don't know, one of my goals this year was to go to 12 dance lessons and to 12 sort of dancing events as well. So that would be things outside, more of a social gathering rather than a strict dance event. And so I finally managed to
get in,
to schedule it in. No more COVID to deal with, and it was a smallish class. Probably, I think there was 6 couples there, so they pair people up with a guy and a girl. So when you go there, like I was there on my own, but almost every single other couple there was a couple apart from another girl who got paired up with me. And it was funny being in a situation where I was probably the best, maybe second best in the class in terms of just being able to move your body.
I find that amazing, man.
Yeah, you wouldn't have particularly thunk it because of just my, like, I'm not really a dancer. It's not nothing I've really done before. Although I have learned a couple of basic steps. Like I've watched a couple of YouTube videos on dancing and stuff, so I have probably put in more effort than most of the people who are like,
Karen's not like immovable in the dance floor. You can move,
but it was funny going. And how did I know this? Well, one of the things is like you're just doing the basic forward steps and backward steps, and you're sort of like holding your partner and doing stuff. And she's continually saying, "Don't look at your feet." And so you look around the room. You need to be conscious of where you are moving and whatnot. And I was scanning the room pretty much the whole time, and most other people were like dead set focus, like that.
Not like staring on the feet, or staring at that, like
a couple times at their feet, but also just like really rigid, not sort of moving and being relaxed. I was having a conversation with the girl I was with, who incidentally you could argue she was better than me. We're probably about the same level, to be honest. And it was funny being like, oh man, I'm kind of good, but then also being well aware of the knowledge that I'm such a shite dancer, just so. I don't have any of like the wiring in my brain, which means like, oh, you move these things simultaneously. It's sort of like multitasking. You know, do this and this at the same time. And there was one particular thing where it was you raise your like left arm up, you push away with their left arm, you raise your left arm up, and then you sort of like come together whilst doing 3 tiny steps forward.
Yeah.
I would say there's sort of like 3 movements in there. One with the right arm, one with the left, and then one with your feet.
Steps, yeah.
Man, I struggle with it. I really struggle with it.
It
just doesn't.
It sounds simpler, but when put into practice, it's like, oh, okay, that's difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones where you hear about dancers who they can see a dance, a move, and they can replicate it. Or same thing with a musician. They can hear a song, and they just know, I play these notes in this order at this rough tempo, and it'll sound like that. Yeah, Not a skill, and I'll say it's a skill. I don't think it's a talent.
Think it's a skill.
Not a skill that I have got, but hoping to
potentially get.
Hoping to
over the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. So are you looking forward to the next dance class?
I am, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Is it usually going to be the same people?
It should be. It's like a 4-week thing, so I imagine I'll be seeing the same.
Like you'll be dancing with that. You'll be probably dancing with the same like girl who you're dancing with as well.
Yes, I believe she said 1 week she had to miss out, so I'm not sure what will happen then. Maybe I'll dance with the teacher. Who knows? That'll be hilarious.
It'll be funny if you tell me that she's like, you're better dancer than her.
No. That's if you hear me saying that, you can switch off the mere mortals. You'd just be like, oh, okay, the Kyron's gone insane. He's talking too much shit now. This is unbelievable amount of shit.
Unbelievable.
But yes, it was fun. And I would say like my body movements as well. I'm in a really fun phase with the handstands at the moment as well, which is sort of getting PBs almost every day.
That's good. That's good. That's a good state.
Yeah,
it's good because I know, I specifically remember maybe a month or two where you were like, it's feeling a little bit like a grind right now.
Yeah.
And you were like, it's grind.
100%,
it's not PBs. It's one of those things. Here's that eventuation where it's like, you keep going through that, and then you get to the bit where it's like, now you're getting like the PBs and all the good stuff's coming together.
Yeah, the funny thing is it doesn't feel like a build-up as well. I could probably look, and I would say, I had the 2 or 3 weeks prior was roughly a 6, 6.5, 6.25, 6.8 on average.
Yep.
It wasn't a steady climb. It was sort of a neutral, and then it just really. I mean, everyone knows this who's done gym for a while. Just the plateaus, and then out of nowhere, it's like, shit, I can do
improvements.
this. I can do this thing. So I'm in that phase now. So I'm kind of happy about that.
Enjoying
So
it. Good.
Loving life.
Love and love. All right, Immortalized, we might finish it there for today. I hope you enjoy listening to the podcast today. For the Meandering session, once again, we are podcasting Value for Value enabled through Podcasting 2.0. Kyron, give us a little spiel on that.
Yep. So for those who don't know, it's essentially we ask what value you got out of this podcast. So if you listen to the whole time, probably you have because you're here listening to my voice right now. How much did that time mean to you? And we put a lot of effort, energy, money into all of these things.
The atoms,
creating all the
atoms make this happen,
are being used, and they're being used efficiently. So don't come bitching to me about our inefficient atom energy usage. We're
we're probably really inefficient today because we drove 2 cars to go to another location to go and actually. So we're probably the most inefficient we could possibly be to do this podcast.
Pretty
today.
Close.
But that's all right.
But in any case, we ask. We put a lot of energy, effort, time, value, all of these things into the podcast, and we would hope that you appreciate that and could send some back to us. So the main ways that we encourage to do this is via a boostergram. So if you go into newpodcastapp.com, send us a boost message, which has a portion of cryptocurrency attached to it. You can decide whatever amount you want. That's the value for value model. And there's also other ways if you want to get in contact with us. Hit us up via the Instagram or Discord.
Go Discord. That seems to be the best way at the moment, to be honest. So if you want to go and have a conversation,
links down below.
Should we say like and subscribe? Is that a thing?
Not really, because with the for us, we have to consider the audio as well. There's people listening.
You can subscribe though. You can. It's follow. It's follow.
You can't like. I don't even care anymore. It's
fuck it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
we're getting sats, baby. That's what we care about.
That's it.
Say nice boosts.
Share.
Share. It's good. Share it with a friend. Share it with someone who cares about talking about atoms and our annoyance.
Create a clip on Fountain, being like, I'll create this clip. I'll check back in 5 years' time, see if.
Well, if we were right about the media thing,
the energy shaming is correct.
It's correct or not. All right, very good. The Immortalites. Thank you very much. Juan out.
Tyron out.
Good.
Shame.